What has happened to Murdock's Music Minute? Well, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard were in town playing a rave show.
Yeah, hey, you're gone.
Yes, their current tour follows the concept that in different towns and different venues they put on different kinds of shows. So you might catch them doing a rock and roll show, you might catch them doing an orchestral show, or you might catch them doing a rave set. And that was the case in Vienna on the 12th of November. It was the second time that I saw King Gizzard live. And again, they played at the Gasometer Hall in Vienna, a hall that is constantly or frequently criticized for having a bad sound for concerts. And yes, that night the sound indeed was a little bit muddy, blurry, but I'm always surprised that actually the material that I filmed on my mobile phone sounds a lot better than the sound you hear as an actual member of the audience. And of course, it was interesting to see what King Giz would do in this almost purely electronic setting. I'll be honest, I would have preferred to see one of the more ordinary rock and roll shows, or actually, I would have most preferred to see them doing an orchestral show. So one of the shows that they are doing at the moment with an orchestra, because there I think they play a bit of different material as well. But hey, Vienna got the rave set, and that was great fun indeed. Actually, more fun than I thought it would be. First, we had a support, Maddie Ashman, a young musician from London, I think. Unfortunately, I actually missed her performance and only heard the final song, so there's not too much that I can say about Maddie Ashman. Very sorry. Usually, I like to also listen to the support acts. I'm not one of those concert goers who, on purpose only arrives when the main event happens. But this time, I don't know, we were stuck at the bar and the merch and whatever. All I can say about her, or I would classify her just based on that one song that I heard, as a kind of a little bit dark, slightly melodramatic, brooding indie singer-songwriter, or maybe indie-tronica. What was interesting was that she played all on her own and used a lot of samples and loops and played a cello. Maybe you get a bit of an idea of her performance or of her stage setup from the photo. But after that, it was King Gizzard time, and they had their little machine synth table installed on stage for the whole show. In the past, King Giz shows featured this synth table as well, but they would, roll it on stage for 3 or 4 numbers and then roll it back. And King Giz in the past tried to incorporate all of the different styles and influences in one show. So I get that now they try to concentrate on one setup for one show, which makes it probably a bit easier for them. So with the announcement of a Rave show, I had prepared myself for some psychedelic EDM. So what did the band plus their, for this tour, additional band member, the synth table that they christened Nathan, bring to the former capital of downtempo electronica? The rave mood was slowly cooked up with the chilled, more mellow Kepler 22B as the first song in the set list, and still following very much the normal song format. This was followed by the equally laid-back electro-pop of Magenta Mountain. This was also when all of a sudden Stu McKenzie reached for his guitar and the song developed into an unexpectedly heavy grooving rendition of Magenta Mountain. Definitely an early highlight for me in the show. One could say that the most exciting moments always were when the band combined their synth techno sound, or Nathan, with their rock band instrumentation on some occasions. And from now on, the concept of this show and the concept of a more synth-heavy rave sound per se was that the live performance was more about the flow and not so much about individual songs. So most of the time, one song, one piece segued into the next one, and it was all about creating a vibe and a flow of rising and falling dynamics, or music rising and then ebbing down again to then reach another dancey climax. And most of the time, King Giz really managed very well to maintain an interesting flow throughout the set list. Knowing that this would be a rave show, I had crossed off quite a lot of material from my imaginary set list, so none of their heavy psychedelic rock or their heavy metal material, right? Well, heavy metal we got a little bit, but just in a different sound. What it boils down to is that in their so-called rave shows, one basically can witness King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard remixing themselves live on stage. One thing that this kind of live setting also brings with it is that, due to the constant musical flow, the interaction between band and audience was missing a bit. You hardly got any announcements or any stage banter that very often can be very entertaining in King Giz shows. So that, of course, was lacking. I quite enjoy if bands have a bit of, fun announcements or some silly banter with the audience. We didn't really get this during the Rave show. The main master of ceremonies or interactor on stage with the audience for me was Stu, also sporting a silly furry hat. All the other band members were more or less concentrating on twiddling around with their synth equipment. Ambrose, who can be usually quite a bit of a limelight hog, was very much in the background that evening. He retreated mostly to playing a bit of congas at the side of the stage, playing a little bit of saxophone, but turned away from the audience. And I only remember one real major vocal performance from him during the Vienna show, which was a rendition of the Bitter Boogie. So at other times, he almost seemed a little bit non-involved in the whole performance. Maybe also the long touring was taking its toll a little bit. Amidst all the dancing, heavy beats, and spaced out electronica, there were also almost ambient moments, very beautiful moments where the music got really quiet. Stu Mackenzie played an E flute, or something that I would best describe as an E flute or a digital flute, which sometimes sounded almost like an electronic saxophone. And the band granted itself a little bit of space for some experimentation. morphed into a nice version of 2.02 Killer Year of the Silver Chord album, if I'm not mistaken. One of the longer electronic jams. And this was followed by another highlight for me, a really cool version of Hot Water, again blending the trancey dance sound with electric guitar, this time from Joey. And this rendition prompted a caravan of crowd surfers, I think, throughout the whole Hot Water jam. People kept crowd surfing from the back of the hall to the front of the stage. The audience really went with the spirit. Fantastic atmosphere among the audience. It was a mixture of being very relaxed about it and being enthusiastic. Secret hero of the evening for me was drummer Michael Kavanagh, better known as Cavs, who very often joined the electronic beats with his live drum kit. And maybe for a casual listener, it wasn't maybe that virtuoso playing. I mean, he didn't do a crazy solo or his going all over the kit technical stuff that he would do in the King Gizzard metal songs. But of course, this kind of music demands a steady, constant precision from a live drummer, because as soon as you maybe are a little bit behind the synthetic beats or the synthesizer loops, the very moment you start playing a little bit too slowly or a little bit too fast, of course, the whole sound collapses within a second. So this must be very demanding for a drummer. And yeah, he did an astonishing job, in my opinion. And with a really long freeform version of the Silver Chord, we got an increasingly spaced out clubbing atmosphere in the hall, which was great fun.
You guys ready?
yet with the dynamics of repetition that this kind of music brings with it, the long-drawn electronic jam feel, and yeah, not so much the focus on actual song performance. The concert, for me personally, lost a little bit of steam in terms of the music in the last 15 to 20 minutes, so that the final song, an electronic version of Gilgamesh, felt a little bit like more of the same, a little bit anticlimactic maybe, but that's just my personal opinion. Overall, I had a lot of fun with this King Giz show. You should definitely go out and see this band in whatever musical guise they appear at a venue near you, be it psychedelic rock, be it with an orchestra, or be it a rave show. They always bring an element of surprise to each concert by unexpectedly changing the arrangement of one of their songs, or fishing out a track they hardly ever play live. So that's really worthwhile. Even though I missed the unpredictability that you get when King Giz play a show where they switch from style to style. This was, of course, all dancey electronics. And if I'm being a little bit overcritical, it lacked a little bit of the emotional intensity for me that I would have gotten from King Gizzard playing their more rock-oriented material. At the same time, those rave shows feel a little bit special. And I think after Vienna, the band now has played a couple more dates in Europe, and will then be heading either back to the USA or to Australia. I really hope they can take a break at one point, because it really feels as if they have been touring for over a year now, without any stops in between. I hope the guys had a good schnitzel somewhere in Vienna, and that they will return with whatever musical surprises they have in store for us in the future. So thanks for watching. Cherish your local dance moves. And if you enjoyed this video, set your clocks for the next Murdock Music Minute.